Terry's nodding yes. Mr. Venegas, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Ask everyone to rise. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to the March 25th Valley View School Board meeting. Affirmation of board. Who's got their computer up? Mr. Venegas, why don't you lead us in the board affirmation since you're down there?
1 second, sir. Valley View School District mission. Our mission is to ensure that all students are prepared for college and a successful life, academically, socially, and emotionally, as well as equipped with the necessary tools to have options and make decisions about their long-term goals. This will be accomplished by believing and working towards all students learning through rigorous curricula and meaningful, effective instruction, consequently demonstrating mastery of high-quality assessments with all stakeholders being held accountable throughout the process.
Thank you. Superintendent Mitchum, agenda.
Mr. President, I would like to ask that the board approve the agenda as presented.
Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. Consent agenda items.
Mr. President, I'd like to ask that the board approve consent agenda items 5.1 through 5.5. 5.1 board meeting minutes, March 11th, 2013. 5.2 executive session meeting minutes, March 11th, 2013. 5.3 gifts for Independence Elementary School. 5.4 hazardous transportation areas. And 5.5 IHSA 2013-2014 membership renewal for Bolingbrook and Romeoville High Schools.
Motion to approve as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Is there any discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none, seeing none. Roll call vote, please.
Member Venegas?
Yes.
Member Hanson?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Curran?
Yes.
Secretary Bull?
Yes.
Vice President Gugis?
Yes.
President Quigley?
Yes. Next, Pillars of Valley View. First up tonight, Member Hanson is going to be presenting BHS.
Where's the pins?
Some are in front of them. Leo's are down there, and Rex. These are extra.
Thank you, Janet. Good evening, Board of Education, senior leadership, community members. Bolingbrook High School would like to recognize Janet Black as a pillar of Valley View School District. Janet has been a science teacher at Bolingbrook High School for the past 7 years and is currently the girls' badminton coach. She is a team leader of the Honors Biology Professional Learning Community and an integral member of the Anatomy and Physiology team. Janet goes beyond the call of duty to help all students, which has allowed her to gain their respect. Janet is always the first one to arrive in the morning and the last to leave at night. She is constantly tutoring students before and after school. She pushes her students to their academic limits each day. Janet is highly respected by her peers, and not only as an essential member of the science department at Bolingbrook High School, but a great friend to many. On behalf of the Board of Education, Bolingbrook High School presents Janet Black as a pillar of Valley View.
Next up, we have Vito Martinez Middle School and Member Venegas. And multiple pillars.
Good evening, board members, senior leadership, and members of the community. It is my privilege to introduce you to 3 phenomenal women who help keep Martinez Middle School running every day. Ms. Kathy Gallo, Ms. Viv Jansa, and unfortunately, Ms. Nikki Weitzman has some severe health concerns, so she was unable to attend. They are all clerical aides at AVM and have been for decades. When asked what their job responsibilities entail, they will pause for a moment, then respond, anything and everything. It depends on what day. These 3 ladies are in charge of organizing all of our state and local assessments. They assist classroom teachers with various needs. They are critical members of our emergency response team, and they help provide feedback after emergency drills to help our building improve. Whenever a radio call is made for additional assistance anywhere in the building, Kathy, Nikki, and Viv are the first to respond, whether that includes counting out flyers to send home with students, delivering items to classrooms, supervising the cafeteria, or helping show a substitute teacher to a classroom. In addition to the long list of roles, each has their own area of expertise. Ms. Gallo completes all of the laminating in the building and is our resident ISAC queen. Ms. Jansa inventories textbooks and runs our after-school snack program, and Ms. Weitzman helps out with technology-related issues while running the Rainbow Group for students who have experienced loss. I could go on for hours listing all of the critical but often overlooked roles that these ladies help out with on a daily basis. That is why we want to acknowledge Ms. Gallo, Ms. Jansa, and Ms. Weitzman for their dedication to making Martinez Middle School a better place for students, staff, and the administration. Thank you, ladies.
Before we start the student, we got one more, I'm sorry. We have the R.C. Hill and Mr. Guchis.
Good evening. Members of the board, senior leadership, Dr. Mitchum, and all stakeholders present this evening. It is my pleasure to introduce Joan Wagner as R.C. Hill's Pillar of Valley View. Joan Wagner has worked in Valley View since 1980 as an intermediate low incidence teacher, and she came to R.C. Hill School in 1990. Joan consistently goes above and beyond in every aspect of the job. She's a teacher, colleague, tech coach, and friend. She collaborates with staff, supports all students, and takes it upon herself to carry over skills to all aspects of her students' day. She significantly changes the school and home lives of her students, parents, and colleagues by being completely invested in the total child. Joan is a teacher who exemplifies our foundation of beliefs and our pillars of Valley View.
Before we start the student portion of the evening, I'd like to ask everybody to join me in a moment of silence. As you know, I could ask everybody to rise. We lost a student to suicide last week, or 2 weeks ago, I guess it is now. And it's just a tragedy. No district should have to go through this. No school should have to go through it, and certainly no family should ever have to go through this. So please, thank you. Next on the agenda, Romeoville High School Spartanettes. Mr. Kinder, if you would please.
Good evening, President Quigley, Vice President Gujas, Secretary Bull, members of the board, Dr. Mitchum, senior leadership, members of the audience, and members of the community. It gives me great pleasure to introduce our two POM coaches at Romeoville High School, our head POM coach, Mrs. Amanda Carroll, and our head JV POM coach, Ms. Kelly Pleasy.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you especially to our dance parents. You are all super supportive, and we really appreciate it. We don't know if everyone's familiar with how the dance team goes, but we begin in June and we don't end until March. So it's a really long season, but I must say these girls came ready to win since day one. The girls took a heartbreaker hip hop routine to state and they took second place. Their hard work and dedication is truly appreciated, so thank you, girls. You deserve every bit of this. As far as our senior choreographers, they were given this leadership opportunity and they took it and ran with it, so we thank them for their support. We really appreciate this opportunity to not only coach but mentor these young, talented dancers. So we would like to recognize the following dancers: Cheyenne Ryan, Gloria Milova, Nicole Kula, Alex Garcia, Kimmy Larson, Vicky Patino, Heaven Cruz, and this is one of our senior choreographers, Veronica Patino. Thank you very much, and congratulations, girls.
And those who can't read it, their shirts say, "Dance like a beauty, work like a beast." Next up, RHS State Qualifiers in Wrestling. Mr. Kinder, if you would.
And once again, it's with great pleasure that I'd like to introduce a Romeoville High School graduate and current employee, Mr. Bill Norman, as our head wrestling coach.
Good evening. I'd like to present and honor the outstanding achievements of two Romeoville High School wrestlers, their season achievements and their career achievements. The first wrestler, senior Caleb Ramos. Caleb wrestled 132 pounds for us. Some of his season accomplishments include he was a stag champion. He was a champion at Wheaton Warrenville South. He took second place at Batavia, second place at conference, second place at regionals, third place at sectionals. He was an IHSA state qualifier. He's a three-time SBC all-conference wrestler. His career overall record, 107 wins, 42 losses. So to win 100 matches is something truly spectacular. Caleb also plans to wrestle at the collegiate level next year. Caleb Ramos. The second senior athlete I'd like to recognize and honor is Naquan Hardy. Naquan's a senior as well. He wrestled 120 pounds this season. Some of his accomplishments, also a stag champion, champion at Wheaton Warrenville, second at Batavia, SBC conference champion. He was a regional champion. He took second place at sectionals. He's the 22nd wrestler in Romeoville history to win a medal at state. Fifth wrestler at RHS to win 40-plus matches in a season, finishing with a 40-5 record and a sixth place state medal. All-state wrestler, Naquan Hardy. Thank you very much.
Next, BHS.
Good evening, members of the board, senior leadership, and members of the audience. It's my pleasure to announce and introduce 4 of our 24 members from the IDEA drafting team that placed second recently at JJC for drafting. And the first person I'm going to call up is Kevin Kruger. He took second place in intro board. Gregory Enriquez, he could not make it. He's in an athletic event tonight. Then we have Kevin Polly. He took first in 3D architecture. And Caleb Munson, he took second in 3D architecture.
Next up, we have the Blue Nose Edutainment Writing Contest National Award winner.
Good evening again. It is my privilege and honor to introduce Mrs. Wendy Strite, one of our 7th and 8th grade language arts teachers at A. Vito Martinez Middle School, who will introduce Miss Melanie Deep, the winner of the Edutainment Blue Nose Award.
Hi. I am a firm believer that all students need real-world writing opportunities, and I believe that this can be done through writing contests. One of our very own 8th grade honors students recently won. I am very proud to announce that Melanie Deep won the Blue Nose Edutainment Contest. The contest was based on a recent movie that was released at the end of 2012 called Chasing Mavericks. The students could choose from 3 essay questions. Melanie chose, what is your maverick? In other words, what is your dream? I am proud to announce that she was a semifinalist winner. Melanie won a free round-trip airline ticket to anywhere in the United States. She was able to trade that in for a $250 American Express gift card. Please congratulate her.
You'll get more money out of that $250 than you will any airline. Next up, we have the drafting team, BHS, state qualifiers.
I think they went out of order, and it should be a medical office procedure people. They went out of order, drafting came up already. Yeah, it should be medical office people.
Oh, I'm sorry.
They went out of order.
How do we jump that? Medical procedures, state qualifiers. No, we're good. Correct? Wrestlers. Never mind, we jumped out of order, sorry. Middle school IESA, state wrestling qualifiers.
Good evening, my name is Tricia Rollerson. I'm the principal here at Lukanzik Middle School, and it is my honor to introduce to you 3 of our wrestling coaches who, without their dedication and hard work this year, they assisted our students, 5 of them going to the state level, and so certainly thank them for all of their hard work and dedication and are here this evening to celebrate our students' accomplishments. Mr. Vincius, Mr. Simic, and Mr. Brooks, if you would please come forward.
Good evening. The Lukanzik Wrestling Program would like to start by thanking the Board of Education for acknowledging our 5 wrestling state qualifiers. I also would like to thank the wrestling coaches who put a lot of time and hard work in with this talented group of wrestlers we had this year. They are Earl Brooks, Brian Simic, Adam Clendenning, and Aaron Vencius. Lukanzik had an outstanding year overall as a team, finishing with a 16-1 record. With the young talent pool that we had this year, the wrestling coaches are looking forward to seeing how the returning wrestlers will display their talent again next season. I would now like to recognize the following Lukanzik wrestlers. Our 70-pound wrestler, or at 70 pounds, I would like to start by introducing Nicholas Torres. Nicholas Torres is a 6th grader. Nick was a regional champion, placed 3rd in sectionals, and finished with a season record of 31-10. He is one of the young talented wrestlers that showed that he was ready this year by advancing to compete in the state wrestling championship. We are looking forward to his future wrestling career here at Lukanzik Middle School. At 85 pounds, Adrian Martinez is an 8th grader. Adrian was a regional champion, finished 2nd in sectionals, and a seasonal record of 24-5 qualifying for the state wrestling tournament. Adrian is an outstanding wrestler and was always willing to help teach younger students every chance he had. Our next wrestler, our heavyweight, Jamari Butler, at heavyweight, Jamari Butler is another 8th grader who finished 2nd in regionals, 3rd in sectionals, and had a seasonal record of 20-7. Both Jamari and Adrian led by example as they displayed hard work and dedication to their teammates. At 167 pounds, Christian Wagner was an 8th grade wrestler who was the regional champion, finished 2nd at sectionals, and had a seasonal record of 35-4. Christian qualified for the state tournament and was 1 match away from winning a state medal. Christian served as a captain of the wrestling team. And finally, at 112 pounds, Pacholo Jubas was the regional champion, finished 2nd at sectionals, and finished the season by winning the 2nd place IESA state wrestling medal. Pacholo was the first finalist for Lukanzik Middle School. Pacholo has a seasonal record of 36-5. His hard work and perseverance has elevated his wrestling abilities that are recognized not only by his peers, but by the high school coaches as well. Just to close, a special thank you goes out to the parents that have supported us throughout the season and throughout the years. The recognition tonight is not only for the athletes, but for the parents of the students as well. Your support and dedication is what makes our team a success. Thank you.
Look at the size of these guys. Some of them are these are junior high students. I know some of the high school coaches are salivating.
Good evening. I'm principal at Humphrey Middle School, Dan Laverty. I'd like to introduce our head varsity wrestling coach, Mr. Jake Arndt. He'll introduce our 2 state qualifiers.
Evening, board members. First off, I want to thank you for giving us the chance to be able to be here tonight and coach our fine, outstanding students that we have. I also would like to mention that I did not do this by myself. I had 2 other coaches, unfortunately, who were unable to make it here tonight, which is Benjamin Hart over at Bolingbrook High School and McGill Hernandez, which is also over at Bolingbrook High School. I'd like to bring up Robert Goodwin. He wrestled for us at 112 this year. His record was 26-3, and that was his career record at the school here this year. Gage, Robert will be going up to the high school next year over at Bolingbrook High. I know Ryan is already looking forward to him. He's already talked to him. He's already said, "Hey, I watch you." He's going to do a great job up there. I foresee him probably wrestling varsity as a freshman. Next, I'd like to bring up Deshaun Mallory. He's a 7th grader for us, and we're looking forward to him coming back next year. This year, he had an overall record of 26 and 6, and as you can see, we call him the little man. He came out very hard, worked very hard for us. He, did everything that as coaches would want an athlete to do. And I have to say, for both Gage and Deshaun, there was never a problem worrying about them, keeping their academics up. At Humphrey, we, stress the academics before we do athletics, and they were two that we never had to worry about. So with that, there's Deshaun.
Good evening. My name is Chris Schaefer. I'm the principal of Jane Addams Middle School, and it is my pleasure this evening to introduce our wrestling coaches, Mr. Art Tansel and Mr. Trey Thomas.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, Board of Education. We'd just like to take the opportunity to first thank the Board of Education and our building administration for giving Jane Addams a chance to rebuild our program. We're here to honor Ian Bazan. He's our heavyweight this year with a record of 20-5. And the cool thing about coaching Ian is that he has been there for 2 years. He started in 7th grade and wrestled in 8th grade, and he made it to state. I think that's a pretty strong accomplishment for a student who's never had any wrestling experience before. He's also a B average student. He's just an overall great kid, and he's been an asset to our program, one of our co-captains. And we're going to miss him next year, but we're glad that the high school is getting a strong, solid wrestler. So thank you very much, Ian, for all you've done for us.
Parents and students, or parents of students, I'm sure you have homework, so don't feel like you need to stick around for the rest of this evening. That's how those guys get B and A averages, not just because of sports. Thank you, gentlemen, ladies. Moving down the agenda, liaison reports, any and all, starting with my right.
The academic committee met this past week. We discussed some changes to the elementary report card. I really want to thank the parents and teachers who are on the academic committee for their tremendous feedback on that. We also had some great discussion and made some great plans to move forward with strengthening our challenge program, and we look forward to some really great committee work by a group of teachers this summer. We also talked about our high school graduation rate and ways to improve that, and so we're beginning that process as well.
On my left, any liaison reports? Illinois General Assembly is on for spring break. There has not been any change as far as I know in the negotiations for, well, there has been some negotiations for pensions, but there has not been any negotiations on the governor's budget and the $300 million that's been proposed to be cut from education in the state of Illinois. We certainly hope that that number is far less than what they've indicated. We also believe that there will be a additional pension burden placed back on the district for the state paying less of their share into the pension system for teachers and other government bodies that they're responsible for. Also, while I'm up here, I have been asked to announce that March 28th is the last day of registration for the summer learning experience. So please, if you are at home or talking to your classrooms, whatever, let the families and the kids know that if they're interested in that program to contact the Ad Center. Any other liaison reports? Barring that, audience participation. This is your opportunity to address the board this evening Please try and keep your comments to 3 or 4 minutes. If you have a comment that has already been addressed by someone else, and please, add something to the comment, or maybe take a pass and let somebody else have a chance to speak. So if anybody would like to address the board this evening, please step forward. If not, we will move down the agenda. This is prior to action. Pardon me? Correct. Vicki Sutherland.
Thank you very much for moving the meeting over to Lukanzik to allow for all the people who wanted to come today for the various different reasons. But the reason I'm up here today is because of our parapros and the decision that is going to be made. And to support our parapros in to support our parapros, I'm trying to get out with what I wanted to say, is basically the fact is that our recommendation is for our parapros to continue employment because we find them to be a viable and an important asset in the educational process. I think about I was trying to come up with an analogy, and the only thing I can think of was throwing out the baby with the bathwater. And often in education, we tend to glean onto a concept or an idea, and we forget about all the other things that have been put into process or into place. And the idea's good, the concept's good, but we tend to forget that also we have certain things that have been put into place for a number of years that have also been an excellent concept in educating our children. The parapros have served a tremendous asset in the classrooms. Without them, the gen ed teachers, special ed teachers would have had more difficult times educating the children. They provide the services that the children need on a day-to-day basis. And although educating the children with adding more certified staff is very important, but the day-to-day, everyday aspect of that child with that parapro is beyond measurable support and significance. We really do need our parapros. And by eliminating them for a concept that may or may not work, I find that we often tend to do that. We just look at something and we say, okay, this is a great concept, now we're gonna get rid of the old concept. And the idea is that while we're figuring this out and we replace what we were doing in the past with something new, we find out we should have held on to what we had and maybe improve on it or make it better or do the more training that is required from some of the comments that were made that maybe that was where we should have been, and not to go ahead and just eliminate the whole entire concept, but to be able to improve on it and maybe have a blend of concepts or ideas. So I am asking for your recommendation to keep our parapros in the system, in the classrooms where they're most needed. Thank you.
Again, please state your name and where you are from.
Good evening. My name is Betty Sherrod, and I am from the STEP program in Bolingbrook. And on behalf, these are some questions that I would like to present to the board on behalf of our staff at STEP. And these are some questions that we had and we would like for you to consider. Number one, now first of all, we were not made privy to the report that that was submitted in reference to about 41% of the paraprofessional aides being dismissed. And we would like to know how large that sample was, who was that sample done on, and the extent of the research on that particular proposal. Number two, did you take into consideration the American Disabilities Act, where you are required to have a certain ratio of aides in the classroom, you know, after riffing that 41%? Did you take that into consideration? And last but not least, we would like for you to know that there are many of us with advanced degrees working in a paraprofessional position, but doing a professional job, and we would like for you to take that into consideration. And there are many reading aides that have master's degrees that are well able to deliver. So, thank you.
Hello, my name is Catherine Yoon. I am a speech-language pathologist at Hermanston Elementary. I work with our autism program. I would like you to know what this reduction in force will do to our program. Because we are a relatively new program in the district, we have been affected by reductions in force every year that they have happened in the last 4 years. Fortunately, we have been able to get most of our paraprofessionals back, many of whom are very passionate about working with our students. However, we do end up with new staff every year, which requires new training for that staff every year, which then costs the district money. If this reduction in force goes through, we will have one paraprofessional left in our program who has been with our program for the last 3 years. We will have to train everyone again. Beyond that, our students with autism strive on consistency and trust. Our students This reduction in force will remove staff that they've built relationships with and trust and will work for. When we have new staff, the students will need to spend time building those relationships with those staff, which takes time, sometimes as many as 1 to 2 months, depending on our students and the new staff. Our staff deal with challenging behaviors, students with limited language, and students who have toileting issues. New staff that comes in needs to be prepared for that. Not everyone is. Our staff are there because they want to be. They want to work with these students. They are very passionate about these students. Sometimes when we get new staff, because of the reduction in force, they are there because they want a job. That does not serve our students well. Our students are aware, can read people quite well, even with having autism, and they know if a staff member is not interested in working with them or have their best interest at heart. If you feel this reduction in force is in the best interest of our students, then I invite you to spend a day with our paraprofessionals to see what they do, and if you think just anyone can take their place. Thank you.
Hello, I am Rosemary Bleers. I'm a supported teacher at Martinez Middle School.
Can you speak closer to the microphone, please?
I'll try. Is that
Thank
better?
you.
Okay, I'm a teacher at Martinez Middle School, and I won't take a lot of your time. I wrote a long note, but I'll keep it short since a lot of you said the same things. I just wanted to address the proposed changes to move our program more toward co-taught. And as she stated very well for the autism program and many of the other programs, our programs are not successful without the support we receive from our paraprofessionals. And just to reiterate that what they do in the classroom is not just to help monitor the students overlook and see that they're behaving properly, but that they are also working with those students, reteaching to those students, and helping them to be successful. With co-teaching, I co-teach as well, and helping the students with 2 teachers when the co-taught classroom consists of 30% students special ed. And in addition to that, we have students who are low performing or students who are what we consider slow learners. It's very difficult for a co-teacher and a general education teacher to meet all the needs in the classroom. The paraprofessional is there to help us to do that, and without them being able to do some of that reteaching or that explanation further of the concepts that we're teaching, our students are not as successful. All students with special needs do not fit into one category, and it's not every single not every need can be met through one program. And I know that our district has financial needs that we have to meet as well, but please understand that our students' needs should come first. Students with special needs are the only population not meeting AYP at this time, and if our district is to help our students to achieve and meet AYP or on the new high-stakes testing that's coming out, in order for them to be successful, we need the support of our paraprofessionals. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Leah Coyle, and I have been a reading para now for 5 years. I come into my job every day loving it. I always want to know what I can do more for my students. So with the proposal of getting rid of the reading paras, it really hurts because reading paras, we know that we are certified teachers. We always are asking what more can we do. We do our own testing. We write our own lesson plans. We meet with the teachers, and we are dedicated for our students. So please take in consideration that a lot of us reading paras are certified teachers, and we do everything we can for our students. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Cindy Crooks, and I've been in the district a long time, and I've been a special ed teacher a very long time. My concern about the parapro situation is the concern about the students, if they will be getting the needs that they need met, even though there's a qualified teacher in there, maybe they don't know or can help them. And then the other thing is my concern is supporting the teacher within that classroom. With having a parapro, if I have to go someplace else, I have that parapro that I do not have to worry about that student, that I can go address another one. And as we all said, it's all for the children.
Good evening. I'm coming here to address you all not as a teacher or as a paraprofessional, but actually as a parent of a child with autism that attends Hermanson Elementary School. And just wanted to let you know, I graduated from college with honors with the degree in art and education. And I can say it for myself personally that the degree is not what sometimes is needed to work with these kids. It's actually that passion and drive that really works with these kids. And that's something that I see with the paraprofessionals that work with Justin, my son. So I just really feel that eliminating their jobs would be just taking something from them that actually was able to be given to my son personally. That's only, I can only talk about my son personally, but just him, the way he's grown and changed with working with these people is something that I think shouldn't be taken away from them.
My name is Christy Moran. I'm from Woodview. I am a parent. I am an educator, but I am a parent, and that's my most important role here in Bolingbrook. I'm looking at this situation, and my kids are your regular to high kids, and it's great, they're doing awesome. But I look at the need for the parapros in the schools, And it's great for those that really need to help come up, but the gen ed teachers need these parapros so they can also help the middle and high stay there. If we're focusing everything on special ed, if we focus everything on those that have special needs and stuff, which is a huge need, and I'm not putting that aside, we're also forgetting the kids that need a little bit of a help, a little bit of a challenge to stay so high. My kids are almost there at that challenge level. I want them to stay there. But if teachers have to focus on every single level, it's going to be extremely hard for them to give those kids the extra challenges that they need.
My name is Adam Thoss from Humphrey Middle School. I would just like to just ask, not ask, but say, in the past couple years, it's been very difficult being a teacher in the sense that we have introduced all-day kindergarten, Senate Bill 7, Odyssey, common formative assessments, Common Core, MAP testing, and we are just starting our co-teaching. And some of these parapros are our heroes, and we would really like to keep them.
Hello everyone, I'm Gretchen Bacco. I'm a special education teacher at R.C. Hill Elementary. I've been there for 18 years. And I would have to say that I've ridden on the backs of my paraprofessionals to the success of my students and myself. I could not do my job without them, nor will I do my job without them. I would like to know how many of you spent a 6-hour day in one of our rooms? Have any of you spent a day in my room? I have 2 children who require 2 people to lift them every time they're transitioned, for diaper changes, to toilet seats, to standards, to immobilizers. I guarantee you, many of you have not witnessed this. I cannot do it on my own. I had a student scream 155 times in 20 minutes. Do you think that if I was in that room by myself, that I would have maintained any amount of professionalism if I did not have parapros who could help me and support me when I needed it? As of right now, I have 3 paraprofessionals for a reason. I have been requested to try to find time in my day to help supervise another student who needs assistance but not willing to get her a one-on-one. There's another student in another room who is medically fragile, who has to have someone hold him all day long. No one-on-one for him. But I guarantee you, if the right parent came in and that was their child, they would have a one-on-one. I stand here with compassion and conviction, but I also believed in Valley View School District for 18 years. And this year and last year has definitely shaken my confidence in what we are here for. I understand the funding. My husband's had 4 jobs in 4 years. I understand the deficits. But how do we meet your test scores and all that you want when you keep taking and taking and taking away? So I am here to represent all the paraprofessionals, and I know that all special ed teachers agree with me. We need you. Thank you.
Dr. Mitchum, if you would.
First of all, I'd like to thank all of those who came to the podium and spoke with such passion. It is appreciated. When we, each year, since I've been a principal in this district and before, every year in the spring we have what we call allocation meetings. During those allocation meetings, building administration, meaning principals and assistant principals, come to the administration center. I did it for 11 years as a principal, and advocate for the needs that we have in each of our buildings. One of the flaws that we have identified as a senior leadership team is that as a unit district, we have failed to operate as such. As a building principal, I was probably one of the most guilty in having my own fiefdom in the 3 buildings that I was charged with leading: B.J. Ward Middle School, Romeoville High School, and Bolingbrook High School. Each time, each year, I would come to the administration center and advocate for my staff based on what I perceived to be a need in our building. That process has been in place for many, many, many years, to include this year as well. This decision, or this recommendation, because the decision has not been made, and this administration will respect the will of the board and carry on, but this decision was not a unilateral decision or a recommendation made by senior leadership. In fact, at the elementary level, based on data, based on evidence, based on information, the building principals made an informed decision about staffing, for which I supported. Not every building principal made the decision or made the recommendation that they wanted to move, particularly their reading aids, move away from their reading aids, which schools have 4 reading aids and 2 reading teachers, to a 4 reading teacher model. However, the vast majority of the building principals recommended that to senior leadership, of which we approved those recommendations. But not only did we approve those recommendations, I took responsibility for ensuring that recommendation for all of our elementary schools, given that the majority of those schools recommended that by increasing their reading specialists and reading endorsed teachers, that they could have a greater impact on student achievement than by having 2 reading teachers and 4 reading aides. We made the decision to go quality over quantity, and we had the evidence to back up the fact that for those schools who had made that decision prior to this year, their results indicated that that framework worked better than the 2-teacher, 4-aide system, for which some of our schools used and some of our schools did not. I do not think it appropriate that decisions that should be made at the administrative level are left to individual buildings, absent the appropriate data, to make unilateral decisions, unilateral of each other. When I took this job 2 years ago, one of the biggest complaints that people had about our district is that we were underperforming and that change was needed. I recognized at the time that by implementing this change, it was going to cause trepidation, it was going to cause difficulty. None of the decisions we have made, whether it been last year or this year, specific to staffing, have anything to do with money. None of the decisions that we have made have had anything to do with a reduction in force. I've indicated before at the last board meeting, a reduction in force indicates that we are doing something to reduce our force. We are not reducing our force. We are changing our programs. The cost is neutral. We are not making these decisions in a vacuum. We are making these decisions, again, based on evidence, based on research, some research that has been statistically validated 10, 15 years ago and has not been disproven to this date, although using the word proof when referencing research is inappropriate. We do have a PowerPoint, if necessary, to reference the reasons why we are recommending moving from a system in which we have 2 reading teachers and 4 reading aides to 4 reading teachers and no reading aides. I heard that for the last 4 years, we've had reductions in force. 2 of those years are not under my administration. Almost every year, we have to look at programming as a possibility for reduction in force, or we have to look at enrollment as a possibility for reduction in force. In the 30 years I've been in this district, I've been part of reductions in force where we cut up to 20 years for teachers. I heard that every year there's new staff that have to be trained. Every year there's new staff that the kids have to meet. Every year that there's changes that require getting to know each other, spending time training teacher aides getting to know staff. At the same time, I've heard that there needs to be a level of consistency where teacher aides and teachers do get to know their staff. I've heard where their students. I've heard where we've had people who have had to, as a result of the manner in which we are forced to place teacher aides based on seniority, where we've had people from the high school level have to go to the elementary level with no desire to work at that level, yet they're there. That is a product of seniority. That is not a product of anything that this administration or this district wants to do. So on the one hand, we want consistency. We want people who want to be in positions where they're needed. On the other hand, we're faced with a system where if there's a programmatic change, if there's a reduction in force as a result of enrollment, people are forced to take positions for which they may not necessarily be qualified or they may not necessarily desire. That's happened for the last 4 years. So on the one hand, I hear we need consistency, but on the other hand, we've never had any consistency. People have bounced around all the time. I've heard that teachers need to focus on every single level. It makes it hard to teach. I understand that completely. That is not a fault of the teachers. That is a fault of us not having systems to ensure that we put you in the best possible position to improve student achievement and to ensure that we affect the social, emotional needs of our children. We haven't done a very good job of that. And again, this is against the backdrop of people indicating that somehow Valley View is less than those districts that surround us, based on our summative outcomes as measured on ISAT and PSAE, attendance, dropout rates, graduation, etc. Just a few short years ago, I emailed this whole district when a realtor put a sign up in Romeoville and Bolingbrook that said, best thing about Bolingbrook, Plainfield schools. Best thing about Romeoville, Plainfield schools. I took umbrage with that statement, because what they were saying was, if you want to live in Bolingbrook and Romeoville and not have to go to Valley View School District, live in this subdivision. I took umbrage with that. I emailed this whole district as a building principal to argue that point. They never gave me a valid reason, because the truth be told, the reason they made that statement was because of the demographics of our children, and they could not respond otherwise. We keep taking and taking and taking away. I guess my question would be, what is it that we're taking? We've changed programs, but we have not reduced the staff. not last year. Yes, we are recommending that we reduce our teacher aides, but we are not eliminating them. In terms of special education, we are mandated by IDEA to place aides as determined by a student's individual education program. If in fact, in an IEP meeting, it's determined that a child needs an aide, they get an aide, and we don't have a choice. It's an unfunded mandate, and we have always honored the recommendations of the IEP team, which includes the parents. And yes, the squeaky wheel does get the grease. The parent who advocates for their child usually does get what they want. We understand that. One of the things this administration has worked hard to do is to ensure that we open ourselves up to this community. We have reached out to this community 40, 50 times in the 2 years that we've been in this administration has been in existence, trying to educate the parents on their power, trying to educate the parents on the need for them to engage us, trying to educate the parents on ensuring that they come alongside us to support us in the education of their children. So I understand that this is a passionate issue. I understand that this affects the lives of adults. But ultimately, what paralyzes administrations from making difficult decisions is just what's taking place tonight. I recognize that when this recommendation was talked about, the first thing we said was this is going to be extremely controversial. We recognize that. The next thing we said was, are we going to allow controversy to paralyze decisions that we believe, based on evidence, to serve the best interests of our children, which is what most administrations do, which is why the school systems move very slowly as it applies to change? Or are we going to make the recommendation, confident that the recommendation we are making truly is to serve the best interests of our students, despite the potential controversy? Because on the one hand, all districts across this country like to say that we put students first. That's everyone's rhetoric. But when you look at our commitment to that rhetoric, sometimes they don't match. Sometimes they just don't match. If we indicate that we put our students first, then why do we do this? If we indicate that we put our students first, then why do we do that? And when those two things don't mesh, it's our responsibility to ensure that they do. So I do apologize for the fact that this recommendation will impact the lives of many people who live in this community. Concerning the special education aides, somebody referenced the ratio. Our district has been out of compliance with IDEA as it relates to the ratio in the classrooms for as long as I've known. We do not adhere to the 70-30 ratio required in our classrooms specific to special ed versus regular education students. Many times we are over that ratio without the necessary supports in the classroom. The fact that we are trying to hire more special education teachers is designed to ensure that we are in compliance with what the law requires as it relates to the ratio in the classroom. There is evidence, there is research, there is data that indicates that when you have an inclusion model, it works far better than a pull-out model or even a push-in model where we have people pushed into several classrooms trying to support students in many rooms. Our local data indicates that those schools who have a push-in model fare better than those schools who do not. So we are looking at national data, we are looking at local data, we are looking at longitudinal studies, we are looking at research in making an informed decision. Are the decisions we make perfect? Are they foolproof? Absolutely not. But when looking at the academic outcomes of our students longitudinally in this district, our outcomes have been mediocre at best in comparison to surrounding districts, and we have suffered for it. So those are just some of the reasons why we are making these recommendations. We put the data on board docs for the public to be able to see since last Wednesday. We can send that data to you via an email as well for you to peruse if you so choose. But understand that we are trying to make decisions to serve the best interests of our students first. And at times, sometimes, that runs counter to what our perceived staffing needs are. But we will continue to make decisions for what we perceive to be in the best interest of our students, whether it be social, emotional, or academic, based on the evidence at hand, as long as this administration sits at this diocese. Beyond that, if there's any further questions or if there's any information that you would like me to share, we are prepared to do that as well.
What I'd like to say is, one, I think our program now is a quality program. And I think that Dr. Mitchum believes that. However, it doesn't mean that the program can't be better. And some of the hardest decisions we're asked to make are decisions that affect people's livelihood. However, the Valley View School District's mission is not to be the largest employer in Romeoville or Bolingbrook, but to do what we think is in the best interest of kids. And the data that we've collected says that this move is in the best interest of kids.
Any other board member comments? Thank you, Dr. Mitchum. Thank you all for your participation in this process as well. Action reports. Superintendent.
No report.
You got student due process.
There's one.
Yes,
Page
I'm
2.
sorry. I ask that you approve student due process case A as recommended.
Motion to approve? Motion and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. Roll call vote, please.
Member Venegas?
Yes.
Member Hanson?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Curran?
Yes.
Secretary Bull?
Yes.
Vice President Gugis?
Yes.
President Quigley?
Yes. Assistant Superintendent's action reports.
No report this evening, sir. No report this evening as well.
Thank you. Mr. Grisafi,
Yes, I've
talk
got
about money.
Several action reports for your consideration this evening, starting with 11.1 is the revised facility user agreement. At the March 11th meeting, the agreement was presented to you, outlining the 7 changes that were made from the initial agreement that was developed back in 2010. We asked if you had any questions at that time and told you that we would be bringing it forward to this meeting for approval. And so that recommendation is being made at this time.
Any discussion? We're talking about using our facilities. We do a lot of partnering with park districts and so on and so forth. That's pretty much all this is. And it's just based on a tier of usage, depending on what your involvement in the community is and so on and so forth, how you use it. And it's just a streamlining of what we have been doing in the past several years. So, need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Is there any discussion by the board? Hearing none, seeing none. Roll call vote, please.
Member Venegas?
Yes.
Member Hanson?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Curran?
Yes.
Secretary Bull?
Yes.
Vice President Gugis?
Yes.
President Quigley?
Yes. Locker replacements. Mr.
Yes,
Grisafi.
Action report 11.2 is a recommendation to accept the final phase of locker replacements at the Brooks Middle School. In 2009, we began replacing the 1,517 lockers with larger lockers that are 12 inches wide rather than the smaller lockers that were there from at the time the building was built. This recommendation is to replace 604 remaining lockers with 381 new 12-inch lockers. We had 3 bidders that responded, and we are recommending the low bid at this time Murphy and Jones Company from Chicago, Illinois, in the amount of $82,667.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Is there any discussion?
Member Curran, I believe it's done. Member Curran, I know this has been a long-standing wish of yours to have this completed.
Only took 5 years.
Only took 5 years, but it was 4, right? I think. But it's done.
We have a motion and seconds. Any other discussion? If not, roll call vote, please.
Member Venegas?
Yes.
Member Hanson?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Curran?
Yes.
Secretary Bull?
Yes.
Vice President Gugis?
Yes.
President Quigley?
Yes. Track resurfacing.
Yes,
Mr. Grazafi.
11.3 is the track resurfacing bid for the Bolingbrook High School. That track was installed when the building was built 8 years ago. It has not received any service or attention to date. It is showing signs of wear. We've got some delamination as well as some bare spots down to the asphalt, and so it is needing some immediate attention due to the safety of those that use it. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of competition out there in terms of companies that will do the work. Midwest Track Builders was the only one responding to our bid call. They are very reputable. They do work in just about all of the high schools throughout the metropolitan area, and so we are recommending that they be awarded the bid as submitted in the amount of $60,450.
Motion?
So moved. Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Just real quick, Gare, what's the expected lifetime on one of these things when they redo the resurfacing? Obviously, use and so on and so forth is.
Yeah, I think 7 to 10 years. A lot of it depends on weather, certainly what kind of snowfall and UV you receive. But 7 to 10 years is a good guesstimate.
Thank you. We have motion and second. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. Madam Clerk, take the roll, please.
Member Venegas?
Yes.
Member Hanson?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Curran?
Yes.
Secretary Bull?
Yes.
Vice President Gugis?
Yes.
President Quigley?
Yes. Next, Mr. Grazafi.
Yes, software asset management solution was presented as well at the March 11th meeting. We took questions and comments at that time, and at this time we are recommending the purchase of the software asset management solution from Express Metrics in the amount of $65,750 as presented.
Motion?
So moved.
Motion and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. Roll call vote, please.
Member Venegas?
Yes.
Member Hanson?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Curran?
Yes.
Secretary Bull?
Yes.
Vice President Gugis?
Yes.
President Quigley?
Yes.
Instructional technology and infrastructure upgrades. This is the second phases 2, 3, and 4, but it's the second action report, again presented at our prior board meeting, recommending that all of the preschool, elementary schools, and middle schools receive upgrades consisting of what we commonly know as a smart board, but it's an interactive whiteboard, along with the software that goes with that, projectors, document cameras, and the requisite infrastructure and audio systems to support those upgrades. We're also recommending the wireless local area network or LAN upgrade, part 1, which is leading to the ability to have BYOT or BYOD, depending on what your flavor is, bring your own technology or bring your own devices. We certainly see that as on the horizon here. Kids want to be tethered, they want to be wireless, they want to be able to have access just about everywhere they go with the devices that they carry on their person. And so having the ability for both students and staff with the ability to have wireless access is something that we just do not see the demand going anywhere but up. And so, again, all 3 of those components, the elementaries, the middles, and the BYOT Phase 1 update, along with the associated infrastructure, is being recommended for your approval this evening.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Bull, second by Ms. Hanson. Any discussion?
Yes. Assistant Superintendent Grazafi, can you speak to the professional development? There is some professional development, I believe, budgeted for this, so our teachers in both the elementary schools and the middle schools will know how to use all this new technology in their classroom.
Right. The allocation we have included in this proposal is really the cost associated with paying our guest teachers, which will allow our regular teachers the opportunity to receive professional development during the day. Rachel, I don't know if you want to speak a little bit more to that.
Yeah, it's actually an easier feat since we've already undergone, the first phase of the elementary technology upgrade. So we have a lot more staff who will be supports in the building. However, there will be training provided by the district and the provider that we work with to ensure that the teachers do know how to use the smart board and the technology in their classroom.
Thank you.
And in the context of the curriculum as well.
So for both My Math and benchmark literacy at the elementary level?
Right. Currently, right now, the curriculum team and the technology team are working together to make sure that those are integrated. So it's not one day you come and learn how to use a smart board, and then the next day you come and learn what technology features that come with your curricular program. It's really to integrate those things because that's the purpose that you're using it for. So to make the most effective use of that time and to make sure that it's most efficient and beneficial for the teachers to teach our students.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. Roll call vote, please.
Member Venegas?
Yes.
Member Hanson?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Curran?
Yes.
Secretary Bull?
Yes.
Vice President Gugis?
Yes.
President Quigley?
Yes. Ms. Hawks?
Actually,
Human resources.
one final action
Oh.
report this evening. It does go along with the instructional technology upgrades that were just approved. 11.6 is a reimbursement resolution that is required to reimburse the district for those costs that it will incur due to the fact that we will be doing most of the infrastructure work in-house. And so in working with our leasing agent, they felt that because it's a reimbursement to Valley View and not to a vendor, a reimbursement resolution was in order. And so we did work with legal to craft the reimbursement resolution as it's presented in the packet. We do request approval of this of reimbursement resolution 1451 as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Take the roll, please.
Member Venegas?
Yes.
Member Hanson?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Curran?
Yes.
Secretary Bull?
Yes.
Vice President Gugis?
Yes.
President Quigley?
Yes. Ms. Hawks?
Thank you, President Quigley. Action Report 12.1, we're seeking your approval on the Consolidated Action Report for certified and classified personnel. This report includes 41 items for certified personnel, 30 for classified personnel, 2 for administrative classified personnel, and 1 for administrative certified personnel.
So,
Any motion?
So moved.
second.
Motion and second. Is there any discussion? If not, take the roll, please.
Member Venegas?
Yes.
Member Hanson?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Curran?
Yes.
Secretary Bull?
Yes.
Vice President Gugis?
Yes.
President Quigley?
Yes.
Next action report is 12.2, resolution number 1445, asking for your approval authorizing the non-renewal of administrator contract and reassignment to a teaching position.
Motion.
So moved. Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Please take the roll.
Member Venegas?
Yes.
Member Hanson?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Curran?
Yes.
Secretary Bull?
Yes.
Vice President Gugis?
Yes.
President Quigley?
Yes.
Action Report 12.3, this is every year we annually come to the board asking for their authorization of the release of part-time teachers and teachers hired under a temporary contract. So resolution number 1446, we're seeking your approval to authorize the non-reemployment of part-time teachers and teachers hired under a temporary contract.
So moved.
Motion. We have a motion. We have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Member Venegas?
Yes.
Member Hanson?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Curran?
Yes.
Secretary Bull?
Yes.
Vice President Gugis?
Yes.
President Quigley?
Yes.
Action Report 12.4, this evening, Resolution 1447, authorizing honorable dismissal of certified personnel. As we explained last board meeting, March 11th, in our information report, due to the Performance Evaluation Reform Act and Senate Bill 7, there are new criteria for releasing certified personnel. They are no longer just based on seniority, but rather it's based on performance first and then seniority. So this is the report that we're authorizing, and there is 16 certified personnel on this report.
Motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion and second. Is there any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Member Venegas?
Yes.
Member Hanson?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Curran?
Yes.
Secretary Bull?
Yes.
Vice President Gugis?
Yes.
President Quigley?
Yes.
Action Report 12.5, Resolution Number 1448, authorizing honorable dismissal of educational support personnel employees. This is the action report for the reduction in teacher aides based on our programmatic changes, and there are 142 aides on this report.
So moved.
Motion?
Second.
And motion and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Ms. Campbell?
What is the process going to be? We've heard some of our speakers, as I would say, that made their comments about that some of our paraprofessionals are qualified to be in the positions that we are looking at considering doing away with. So how are those people who are in that position going to be considered?
If they hold a teaching certificate, they are welcome to apply for those positions. As far as reading teachers, reading specialists, we are looking for those that have that, but we are open to, if someone is enrolled in a program and can receive their certification within a year or two, we are also open to that at this point too.
Do you know
May I-
how many
may
are
I-
at this point?
May I
able
add to that?
Yes.
May I add to that?
Yes.
It is true what Ms. Hawk says. We are looking for people with reading specialist or endorsed in reading. However, for those staff members who are working in the capacity of an aide that do have a teaching degree, in the event that it's doubtful that we'll find as many reading specialists and people endorsed in reading that we need. So those people who know our children, who have worked with our children, who have been in our district, will obviously be given first preference and priority over anyone from outside the district who wishes to apply.
Next question. Did these individuals know before we went into this that they would have been allowed to apply for these positions or had an opportunity where they could have been working on this at this current time?
The answer to that is most likely no. And again, it's a product of the process. Every year we have allocation meetings in which building administration approach senior leadership with their recommendations for teaching positions and teacher aide positions. I want to drive home the point that absent senior leadership deciding that we were going to have a streamlined district-wide process, whether that decision was made or not, we would still be here today with the same resolution based on the recommendations out of the buildings as a result of the information and the data and the evidence that they brought to the table in terms of their programming. We have four buildings right now that have the four reading specialist model, and four of those four buildings in one data set are our top four schools as it relates to outcomes as measured on our measures of academic progress. All four of those schools are in our first quadrant of schools in another data set that measures outcomes as it relates to measures of academic progress. When looking at those, and there are significant differences between the outcomes of those schools who have the 4 reading teacher model and those schools who have the 2 reading teacher model. That information, when shared with building administration, led most to agree or to recommend that they move from one model to the next. So this truly was initiated by building recommendations, supported by senior leadership, and then the decision was made to make this a district-wide decision, which really impacted only 2 of our 12 elementary schools. So as a result of the process for which we make these decisions, we really don't know until the allocation meetings, which are held in the spring or just a couple weeks ago, 2 weeks ago or so, exactly what our recommendations will be. If there's another way in which to do this, we would gladly do that, because as soon as we can make people aware of potential changes, we would like to do that. But unfortunately, we don't know until we have those allocation meetings.
So the previous allocation meeting, when the majority of the principals chose to go this route, when did that happen?
Those were towards the end of February.
So the first time that the principals was going through this model was in February? Is that what I'm hearing you saying?
Over the last 2 to 3 years, buildings have been going towards this model. We have not mandated it, but every year there's a couple more buildings that choose to go with the 4 reading teachers versus the 2 reading teachers and 4 paraprofessionals.
So you said over the years, so when did the principals choose in a more majority way to decide to go to this model? Are you telling me that happened in February?
Yes, this year was the year, I would say probably the biggest year that the elementary principals decided to move towards that model.
Okay, so what percentage-wise went the previous 2 years into this model?
I don't have those numbers available at this moment.
Okay.
What was the question, Member Campbell?
What was the percentage? If we say 80% went this month in February, then it says this has been a 2-year process, then what percentage went in the first year? What percentage went in the second year? And we've got the majority went in the month of February.
We had 4 schools last year who chose to go from the 2 teacher model to the 4 teacher model. This is the second year in which those 4 schools have been in that model. So we're looking at the data from last school year as well as this school year in relation to their outcomes in comparison to the 2 teacher model. And we're just not looking at that data in terms of making that decision. We're also taking into account the recommendations of the building administrations. We're also looking at the research and the longitudinal data, not just within our district, but nationally, as it relates to the impact that reading specialists have on the outcomes of students, and in one study particularly, the difference in the impact that reading specialists have on students as opposed to a combination of reading specialists and reading aids. And so we looked at all of that information in making the decision from a district perspective to include the 2 schools who chose the two teacher 4-aid model in helping them to understand, or in making the decision that they too would move to the 4 teacher no aid model.
Member Campbell, as I hear them say that, I think the better answer to your question is 33% chose it last year, 83% chose it this year.
May I ask a question? Have we seen an improvement in the child or the children that are in the selected model at their level of education and social skills and life skills, as far as do we have data that shows that that it has improved under this new model, or that's why we're making the change? Does that make any sense? Because I'm looking at MAP, right? And I'm thinking, is there proof that there is improvement in that child as far as between the 2 different models? Because clearly we have multiple models out there. And of these models, which has shown significant improvement in that child's education?
In terms of the models that we have in this district, when we did an inventory of all the interventions systems that we had in this district last year, and we literally counted hundreds of intervention programs in our district that were costing the district taxpayer dollars. Of those hundreds of models that we had in our district, we had no real data warehouse for which to assess to the degree that those models were impacting student achievement. This, again, is not the fault of the teachers. It's not the fault of the building administration. It's the fault of we who sit behind this dais for not appropriately making decisions that help our district to focus on best practices. And so we began to look at all of those models, and we began to try to eliminate those models for which we could not determine to the degree they were having an impact on student achievement. And we began to look at those models that were having evidence that they were having an impact on student achievement. And I don't want to speak to the social emotional impact they're having because we haven't measured that, to be honest, Mr. Venegas. But what the research will tell you that students who are successful in school tend to have less social emotional discipline problems than kids who are not. So at the root, if we can assure that all of our kids are where they're supposed to be, when they're supposed to be there, again, the research will validate that you will have less discipline problems. So again, you know, philosophically, do we want to work on the symptom of the problem, or do we want to work on the root cause of the problem? And if the root cause of the problem that kids feel disenfranchised, kids feel not validated as a result of being unsuccessful in school, then if we can ensure that they are successful in school, then by definition, those social, emotional, and discipline problems diminish.
Okay, so based on the models that some of the schools have gone to, I know we had several of them. You said, what was the percentage, Vice President Gujas?
33% last year.
Last year. So have we seen an improvement with those schools and those classes?
Yes, we've seen improvements in the outcomes of kids who are in the schools who have moved to the 4-teacher model. We have seen a greater improvement in gain scores for those schools than the schools who have not moved to that model, which is the impetus for the recommendation.
Very good. Thank you.
I have a couple questions. You had said earlier we have 4 schools that are in Model 1, leaving 8 that are in Model 2, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And we have this 83% rate from our principals that are saying they want to move to Model 1.
That's correct.
How many does that equate in? We have 12 schools.
10 of our 12 principals.
10 out of the 12 principals. What load is going to be added to the teachers from the proposed change? I heard that in one of our, when we're looking at that actual change.
The load may vary depending on the building because the buildings are different sizes, and also depending on the demographics of the building, the percentage of kids who are in needs of support can be different. So you can't really make a determination that the larger the building, the more kids it will have that will be in need of supports. Some of our buildings, for example, Pioneer may have far less at-risk kids than a building like Tibbet or BJ Ward. Pioneer is one of our larger buildings. However, it's in one of our more affluent communities, and the kids who go to that school traditionally come in with better supports. So even though it's a larger building, it may not necessarily need to support as many students who may be in a building that has a smaller number of student population, but a greater number of at-risk kids. So the load will vary. We met with all the reading specialists last Friday. I did, as well as Mike Locascio and a few others in the district, to talk about this change, and we showed them that data as well. We had the schools who were in the 4-teacher model present to the schools that have the 2-teacher model to give them some ideas as to how this change might look. One of the things, again, I think that we have, where we have made mistakes as an administration is that we have, in many instances, we've mixed product and process. And product to me are those things that are not negotiable. It's the expectations we have of our kids. For example, an expectation we had was that we will not expose our students at the high school level to any courses that are not at least at the 9th grade level, like we have in the past. In this district, we had 7th grade courses at the 9th grade level, and the question was, why? What is it about our kids that require us to have courses that start 2 years behind grade level at the high school? Why do we tolerate that? That's a product issue. So we're not going to negotiate that. So in terms of the product, meaning the need or the recommendation to go to the four teacher model, that's for you to decide. In terms of what that looks like in each building, I do not think that it's appropriate for administration to make decisions about process. We should allow our teachers to make the decisions about the process they use in their buildings with the resources that they have to drive improvement. Again, the research indicates that when you allow that to happen, students achieve. So in terms of what it looks like in the building, I leave that more to the experts, to the people who have the specialist degrees, to the people who are endorsed in reading, to tell me, based on the idiosyncrasies of each of their buildings, what that process will look like. And then what we will do is we will examine the results based on the individual processes in the buildings as a result of a specific product that's not negotiable, and we will benchmark against each other as we begin to look more alike than different, surrounding best practice based on student outcomes. So as the years progress and we collaborate with each other around what works in the buildings, then we can naturally gravitate to best practice based on student outcomes.
Member Hanson, I'd also like to add another component with that. There has not been mentioned, really highlighted yet, about the impact on the universal, and that's something that's harder to measure from the outset. But specific to the elementary example, when we looked at the growth in reading for students who weren't receiving direct services, but were in a building where that reading teacher model existed, those outcomes were better. And the focus that we know that needs to be there, in addition to providing direct instruction to the students who need it, is also on impacting the universal. And by universal, I mean our teachers who are in our classrooms and all of our students. So by providing additional support, leading professional development, helping look at data, leading conversations, helps build the capacity of our entire teaching staff, and it also has a direct impact on our students who aren't directly receiving services. We have not mentioned much in the recent conversation about the supported ed side. And with that, we know that moving to having greater amount of co-teachers available, certified co-teachers, will spread out the load of those teachers who are currently co-teaching. So that will have an impact by lightening the load in each of the current co-teaching sections. Also by bringing in additional certified staff and shifting away from the classified staff, those certified staff will be able to run intervention periods for special ed and for general ed students. Currently, we do not have a system in place to support a response to intervention model, which is commonly referred to as RTI, which means when we identify that a student is having difficulty and needs some additional academic support, we don't have a solid structure in place to provide that support before a student moves forward and is qualified for special ed services. Having additional certified teachers who have training in literacy and mathematics to diagnose and provide research-based interventions is the first step to putting these interventions in place. And then the next important piece is that we have the certified staff who have the training and the expertise and the experience in monitoring those interventions. So at the offset, it does seem like there will be just a heavy load shifted to those teachers who are currently there. It actually will lighten the load because there will be additional certified staff who can pick up some of those areas and provide those intensive support to the students that we currently don't have the structure to exist. And I also want to mention that response to intervention, we've been talking about it for a long time in this state. It's a state law, and we don't have the structures in place to put that in place. Even if we wanted to, we do not. And so that is something that we don't have that option to say, oh, we choose to do this or we choose not. We choose to do it because we have to be in compliance with state law, but also we choose to do it because we know that we have many kids who could benefit from that support. And I think when it comes down to it, it may seem like, you know, it's just shifting of the load, but it is lightening of the load, and providing that direct support by the staff who has that expertise and that training will certainly lighten the load for the classroom teacher in many ways.
So it sounds like we have some support to be able to understand the academics of it. But it sounds like there's also instances where we have staff that needs additional assistance. I mean, the story that we heard about one of our teachers changing diapers and having a child that is screaming 255 words. Are we going to have staff to assist in that? Is it another reading teacher? What do we do
I would
with
like to make some clarifications here. We're talking about two different things when we're talking about this recommendation and staffing. We are talking about reading aides who are at the elementary schools and support reading teachers and students receiving additional interventions in reading, but we're also talking about supported ed aides, and those are aides that serve in a variety of capacities serving our special ed students. When we talk about special ed aides, there's different categories. There's program aides and there's one-to-one aides. So for example, a student in the low incidence program who requires toileting assistance or whose IEP indicates that they need a one-to-one aide because they need that high level of support, those aides are not impacted. Like Dr. Mitchum mentioned earlier, those aides would not be removed because A, we know they're necessary, and B, we're required by law. So it does not impact one-to-one aide, and it does not impact program aide. And I also heard previously the concern about training of those who are in specialized positions, and we share that concern, and we have to operate within the language of the bargaining agreement that we have with the union. So in terms of having a specialized designation, you know, we don't have control over that. What we can control, though, is having a plan in place to ensure that the appropriate training is given to the individuals who move into new positions.
And Mr. Venegas, that's not new. As one of the teachers eloquently stated, we've riffed for the last 4 years. We've run across that problem every year, and it's a significant problem where we may have a one-on-one aide, but as a result of the contract language, they may be bumped simply because of seniority, and so we have to go through that training process all over again.
No, I appreciate that. I just want to make sure that our community understands that our children are not at risk, right? That we're not, that yes, there's some changes to the program, but it sounds like when we have, you know, staff coming here and saying that they won't do their job because they don't have assistance brings some concern to me, and I know to the community. So I just want to make sure the community knows, right? That that the support's still going to be there one way or another.
Clearly, it is not the most ideal situation to remove an aide from a student for which they've grown accustomed. That is something that's beyond our capacity to control at any time that you have a RIF. And that RIF could just be simply as a result of enrollment. If we were not making any programmatic changes and there was a decrease in enrollment which required a RIF, the same thing could happen again. But we would not be under the same level of scrutiny because the decrease in enrollment is beyond our capacity to control. Programmatic changes is within our capacity to control. So whenever you make programmatic changes that impacts your teaching staff and your support staff, then clearly we will be held far more accountable than we would if it's something that we have no control over. But again, in looking at the history of this district, it's my perception that we've allowed ourselves to become paralyzed because these decisions are very, very difficult, to the extent that we are outside the compliance, we are outside what the law dictates is required in terms of IDEA.
So this decision will help us come back into compliance?
This decision will absolutely help us to come back into compliance as it relates to what IDEA expects, specific to our ratio of special education to regular education and the supports they have in the classroom.
And because I want to go back to my community and let them know that, you know, whenever we're taking a decision like this, right, that our children are still safe, that they're going to still receive the highest level of support and education, even with these tough decisions that come up. Because I think that's my biggest concern there, right? That we know, we've heard that there's a fear of that.
As is ours, and Erica
Thank you.
Ekstrom can speak to that
Thank you.
in more detail.
Hello, members of the board, audience members. I know that we're not coming here lightly today, and so we are talking about a lot of reasons for making these programmatic changes. And one of the reasons for the programmatic change is due to the requirements of IDEA. IDEA, as interpreted by the state of Illinois. So IDEA is a federal special education law, and each state must interpret those rules and regulations to fit within their own guidelines. The state of Illinois has indicated that there are class size minimums and requirements. Our self-contained programs have requirements as to how large those classrooms can be. In some of our programs, those self-contained classrooms can have at most 13 students in those class sizes. And those are our students who are in an all special education classroom, and some of our students who have the most significant needs. We have classrooms that have operated at 15 students, 16 students this school year. In our general education classrooms, the law requires that we have a 70%, 30% ratio balance. So in a classroom, 70% of the classroom must be students without disabilities, and 30% of the students in the classroom can be students with disabilities. As a result, depending on the size of your classroom is how many students with disabilities you can have in those classrooms. Every single one of our middle schools and high schools operated outside that 70-30 requirement. So students that we heard about from some of our staff members regarding the difficulty in meeting a wide range of needs is present because there's so many students who might have a learning disability and there isn't enough support. And we can't move those students to other sections because those sections in and of themselves are full. So instead of starting those class sizes with 13 students already in the classroom, we're hoping to reduce the class sizes where there's 6, 7, 8 students in those classrooms. Much of what was discussed, our self-contained programs are specialized programs for our students with autism, low incidence disabilities, emotional disabilities. Those staffing allocations have not changed. As Dr. Mitchum, is this RIF potentially going to impact those programs? Yes, but we are committed not only to ensuring that those programs run at the same capacity, but we're committed to ensuring that those adequate supports and operating below the self-contained classrooms persist. Our classes in those programs are running well below not only the state average, but the local average with regards to our starting class sizes, and we're committed to those supports.
This is not how this works.
Pardon me, ma'am. This is not the point where we do that. Well, you guys can take that and talk up there. You can talk to her directly.
I would be happy to meet with whatever stakeholder would like to stay and meet and answer those questions. There have been families and teachers who have reached out to me to talk personally regarding about how this is going to impact their individual child as well as their programs. I am happy to stay and answer any of those questions, both tonight and in the long term. So if we don't get a chance to answer your questions now, I promise to stay and answer them this evening.
Let's move on.
In the IEP meeting.
Ma'am, this is a public meeting. You need. I understand. Thank you. Is there any more discussion from the board? Any more questions? Hearing none, seeing none, I have one comment. The last thing we want to do is A, lay people off, and B, have our kids continue to founder in their reading skills. We are adding teachers. We have added teachers in this district. We have riffed people. We have called people back. We will call people back. I don't know the exact number. It's based on need. We will be hiring reading certified teachers, and we will be hiring back parapros to assist some of those teachers. We do not know what the exact number is. Again, it will be based on needs and based on registrations and so on and so forth. So I thank you all for your participation, and this is not an easy job sitting up here, trust me. Not for any of the board members, not for any of the staff sitting up here. This is not an easy job. So with that said, if there's no further discussion, a motion would be in order.
No, we already had the motion. It's time for the call for the vote. Yes, yeah, we had
We
a
have a
motion, we had a
motion.
second. I brought it up, and it's time to vote.
Madam Clerk, roll call vote, please.
Member Venegas?
Yes.
Member Hanson?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
No.
Member Curran?
No.
Secretary Bull?
Yes.
Vice President Gugis?
Yes.
President Quigley?
Yes. Next on the agenda,
Action Report 12.6, Resolution 1449, authorizing non-reemployment of part-time teacher aides and temporary teacher aides. Again, this is an annual report that we do to release our part-time and temporary teachers that are informed when they're hired.
So moved.
Second?
motion and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. Roll call vote, please.
Member Venegas?
Yes.
Member Hanson?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Curran?
Yes.
Secretary Bull? Vice President Gugis?
Yes.
President Quigley?
Yes.
Final action report this evening, 12.7, resolution number 1450, authorizing dismissal of fourth-year probationary teacher for reasons other than reduction in force.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded. Is there any further discussion? If not, roll call vote, please.
Member Venegas?
Yes.
Member Hanson?
Yes.
Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Curran?
Yes.
Secretary Bull?
Yes.
Vice President Gugis?
Yes.
President Quigley?
Yes. Dr. Mitchum, information reports.
No reports this evening.
Mr. Alpern, I believe, has some brief reports.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to point out to the public and the board members as well. You know, the Illinois legislature is currently in session. There's an awful lot of activity down there that impacts what's going on here locally with your school district. And I would encourage you to become educated as to what those bills and what those proposals might be, and to contact your state representatives and your state senators to make sure that your voice is heard. There's a lot of big questions that are being addressed, and I think they will have a direct impact on what happens here. That's all, Mr. President.
Thank you. For those of you who don't know, we get periodic updates from the attorneys on some of the more legally challenging issues that come out of Springfield on occasion. And if we don't know what they mean, that's what the educational legal professionals are for. And trust me, if you read through some of those statutes, they're very confusing. Moving down the agenda, AFT report. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Grant.
To that term, you know, that I heard they did something with COLA for the pensions, the automatic rate increase.
Yeah,
are they going to piecemeal this legislation, or are they going to do it in one big piece, or are they going to bits and pieces?
It would be my guess that the pension bills, and as they did with the conceal and carry and gun bills, they have added, I think there's somewhere in the neighborhood of 52 amendments. A pension bill, Senate Bill 1, was passed by the Senate 30 to 22 to 2 on Friday last week. It will be sent over to the House. It would be my guess that the Speaker of the House has been using what they call orders of the day, rather than have a bill read once and then discussed and voted on. They are reading every individual amendment that may or may not be added to that bill. There will be probably, I would say, several, to say the least. But just in one bill, using the conceal and carry and the guns bill as an example, they debated it at least 4 times for at least 3 hours. So the COLA, and well, not the COLA, but the pension and the COLA and so on and so forth will all be a part of that negotiation. I think the House of Representatives has their idea of what is affordable and what's doable and sustainable. I think the Senate has a different number, and what's affordable and so forth. And they have what number is the maximum pension, school pensions, how much are we going to be required versus what the state pays, and all those types of things. So the answer to your question is yes, it's going to be piecemeal, I would guess. But at the end of the day, it will probably be an agreed bill from both sides. But they have to do something in short order. The state's bond rating continues to fall, and it's all based on the pension. Plus, I don't see them getting a budget passed until they get the pension and some of the other big ticket items kind of off the table.
Just as a side comment, Member Curran, Senate Bill 1 will only affect non-current retirees, meaning anybody who's currently retired would not be impacted by that bill right now. So we'll see if it ends up in that same form.
And the retirees that are people who are currently retired has been acted upon by the courts, and Jeff can confirm this, but that it will be challenged if you try to diminish any benefit for somebody who is already retired. You have an individual contract. There may be 1 billion of you out there, but if you are retired, you have an individual contract that the state is obligated, or the entity that is obligated, to honor. So, legal services, you're complete?
Thank you, yeah.
Thank you. Association reports, AFT. Pardon me? Thank you.
I just want to express my disappointment in the decision that was made here today with the parapros. But I do want to thank Member Campbell and Member Curran for supporting our parapros. Thank you very much.
Valley View Council report? No report. Well, I've got to ask. Valley View office personnel? No report. Any old business before the board this evening? Any new business before the board this evening? Any questions on the public of actions we have taken this evening? Hearing none, seeing none.
There's one.
Oh. Please step forward, state your name.
Hello, my name is Keith Benson. I'm a
Can you please
substitute
speak
teacher at Bolingbrook High School. Can you hear me?
Yep. Thank you.
This is in regards to what I've read about the charter school. I don't know the specifics, but I mean, my knowledge of charter schools based on my experience with my relatives in the Chicago public school system. A couple of things that I'm curious about. First of all, in regards to the setup, usually there are larger than normal salaries that are established for these individuals. How is that going to be set up? Second of all, is this going to be a voucher-based system? And if it is, how much are those vouchers going to be? And then why is it that that same amount couldn't be redirected back into the school system?
Sir, we have a hearing on Wednesday night on charter schools.
Okay.
And we are not, because it's a public hearing and at advice of council, and the people from the charter school are not here to represent themselves, we are not.
Well, these are still questions that you can answer or should be able to address to us.
You know, at this point in time, we really can't, because the process for the charter school is set forth in the statute, and I don't want to mess with the legalities of what they have to go through. I would encourage you, you're right, I mean, those are very valid questions. I would encourage you to ask those questions on Wednesday at the hearing that they have.
And I'd be happy to talk to you afterwards, too, and give you my 2 cents worth.
What is your name?
Pardon me?
What is your name?
I'm Steve Quigley. I'm the president of the school district.
Okay.
If you want to meet me wherever afterwards, but
most certainly.
Thank you. Any other questions from the public? Hearing none, seeing none. Any announcements by the board members?
I'd just like to make a few more comments that even though the decision came the way we are, I am still confident in my God, number one. And this administration, and the young lady talked about the change in the tables. I have a number of hats that I wear, and one of them, I've changed tables, changed individuals, because I sub in Naperville 203. So I've been there also. But I'm confident that even the decision here, I would admonish that those of you who are able to apply for those positions. And I heard there was also a statement saying giving you some time, like a year. So for those of you who can, I would like for you to do that and to, even in the midst of all this, because this is hard. And so, but to still have trust and faith, I've heard somebody saying, you know, the downs and the changes and all these things that have taken place in the last couple years. I hope and pray that your confidence is still looking out for the best interest of the students. And even when I disagree with the decision, I am going to support and look out for the best interest of the children in this district. And I believe, even though the board members voted the way that they did, that in the end, that's what it's all about. And I do expect you to hold me and us to that standard, as well as Dr. Mitchell and the administration. And that's still, even in the midst of this, to work together to make sure that we are fighting for the best interests of the children.
You know, I just want to take a second to thank all of the students that were involved in the 2 high school plays. I know I saw several of my board members there, Mr. Venegas, Mrs. Hanson, several others. You may have been there. But just really impressive to those students and the staff that helped them, and all the hours of work that goes into producing a quality show that is both entertaining and really enlightening to see our students in that. And it's funny, I brought my 8-year-old daughter, and she has begun to recognize students and was very upset that some of them were seniors and graduating and not going to be there next year to see them perform. So really want to thank all those students for all their years of hard work on that. And I know sometimes they feel like that we don't recognize what they do, but we really do appreciate what they do. And I'm sure we have no idea the kind of time they put in that, plus with their duties as just being a student and a kid. So really want to thank those students and all the adults that put in extra hours to work with them. Really impressive stuff. I really encourage you guys to get out and see as much of the drama as possible. I'm looking at the administration staff from Brooks and went to their 8th grade play, and that was a good time. There's been many great plays right here where we're sitting here at Lukanzik, and those are always great times. So I really want to encourage staff and the community as a whole to get out and support those activities.
Any other comments?
I would just like to second what Mr. Gujas says. We have a lot of talented kids out there, and it's a pleasure to watch them perform and the hard work that they put in to do what they do. It was really enjoyable seeing both Bolingbrook and Romeoville put on their plays, and they're to be commended.
And as previously mentioned, there was a special board meeting on Wednesday night at 6:30 at the Administration Center, and it is will be a presentation by Virtual Learning Solutions proposing a chartered school.
I want to kind of dovetail with what Ms. Member Campbell said. This is about the kids. It's about making our district better, a better place to live, a better place to raise your families, and it all starts with schools. And what Dr. Mitchum said earlier, that he was embarrassed by some of those things as a teacher here, or a principal here years ago. We do work very diligently to do what we can do to help the kids, increasing rigor and so on and so on and so on. And sometimes beating our heads against the wall in Springfield, against the General Assembly or the bureaucrats or whatever. But at the end of the day, I believe in my heart that every person sitting up here and everybody sitting out there, your hearts are in the right place. And it's about making it a better place for our children to live and a better place for our families to live as well. With that, I would like to wish you all a very happy and safe Easter and spring break. If you're traveling, be careful. And if you're going to the airport, go early, because my wife works there and they are backed up deep. So thank you and have a very safe evening. Motion to adjourn would be in order.
Second.
Motion and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We stand adjourned. Safe travels.